Hello, my name is Rachel Shanley, and my presentation is about the downfall of for-profit higher education institutions through admissions tactics. Over the last few years, more and more for-profit higher education institutions have come under fire for the legality of admissions recruitment and the use of financial aid. Some of the industry's biggest players have made headlines in recent years for their poor performance, exorbitant pricing, and exploitation of vulnerable, low-income students. And the feds are now poised to ramp up oversight amid larger efforts to reform the country's higher education system. My project is focusing on four for-profit institutions in particular, including Education Management Corporation, Alta Colleges Incorporated, Education Affiliates, and American Institute. The cases about these four for-profit institutions are on four main issues: illegal recruitment techniques, illegal compensation structures for admissions representatives, false data regarding graduation and employment rates, and falsification of high school diplomas. The settlement with numerous for-profit institutions has led to not only these institutions paying millions of dollars to the United States, but also led to the closure of many of these campuses, leaving many students in debt with no degree and with a transcript full of courses that nonprofit institutions may not accept. These settlements are leading to new regulations for higher education institutions, like gainful employment, and are leading to the federal government to take more of a stand as watchdogs to identify the corrupt for-profit institutions who are not giving their students full opportunities to get a degree. Through these cases, more regulations regarding admissions and financial aid tactics have been implemented, leading to less students being misled and more students having the opportunity of success. Education Management Corporation owns the Art Institutes, Argosy University, Brown Mackie College, and many others, and each of these institutions encompass numerous campuses and online education. This case includes the United States of America and 12 states who filed a complaint against the Education Management Corporation demanding a jury trial and look to recover the damages and civil penalties arising from EDMC's knowingly false, misrepresented, and other improper certifications of eligibility to the Department of Education for participation in the Title IV HEA programs. And EDMC knowingly submitted or caused to be submitted numerous claims for payment to the Department of Education based upon these false certifications. EDMC's compensation system for admissions representatives violated Title IV of the HEA's incentive compensation band because it was not a fixed compensation structure. Because EDMC violated the Higher Education Act, the corporation was not eligible for federal financial aid but continued to use it significantly, drawing in most of its income from the student grants and loans. The settlement includes the conditions of EDMC paying $95.5 million to the United States. These funds would be shared among the United States, the involved states, and the whistleblowers involved. The settlement also included the requirement of EDMC complying with the incentive compensation band of the Higher Education Act in order to be eligible for student financial aid programs, and complying with the False Claims Act of each state to be considered an eligible institution for financial aid programs statewide. Alta Colleges Incorporated violated the Consumer Fraud and Deception Practices Act due to the fact that Alta employees engage and continue to engage in deceptive, unfair, and abusive practices in the marketing and selling of the criminal justice program by misrepresentation and omission of material fact. The defendants misled students about every important aspect of the career-focused degree in criminal justice, from the financing and cost of the program to the likelihood of the positive employment outcome after the student departs from school. Alta's admissions representatives in marketing material expressed that 60% of students who graduated from Alta's criminal justice program were employed in their field of study. In reality, only 3.8% of graduates actually were law enforcement officers. Instead, most graduates were either security guards or worked in retail, which are positions that usually only require a high school diploma. In addition, the graduates of the program had a median starting salary of the median salary of a 25-year-old with a high school diploma. Lastly, the university did not share with its potential students that some of the largest law enforcement employers in Chicago, where the school is located, like the Chicago Police Department and Illinois State Police, found an Alta degree to be insufficient for a position with the agency. In addition, In the Alta criminal justice program, out of the 7,530 students who began the program, only 16.5% actually graduated because the corporation illegally marketed their program and used financial aid fraudulently. As noted in the Consumer Fraud and Deceptive Practices Act, Alta Colleges Incorporated had to follow the remedies that included relief without limitation, recovery of costs, and revoking Alta's licenses to operate a criminal justice program in the state. In addition, a civil penalty of $50,000 per violation was assessed, and Alta had to end their Apex contracts, which was the private loan provider, with the criminal justice students under the Consumer Financial Protection Act of 2010. Education affiliates violated the False Claims Act by creating fake high school diplomas for its potential students, or sending students to diploma mills where they could obtain an invalid high school diploma. Because of these fake diplomas, educational affiliates was submitting false claims to the Department of Education for federal student aid for students enrolled in programs. Due to the fact that a student needs a high school diploma or GED to apply to college and apply for and receive federal financial aid, the institution increased its enrollment numbers by accepting students who didn't actually graduate from high school or have the needed education experience. The settlement included education affiliates agreeing to pay $13 million to the United States to resolve any allegations that violated the act. The settlement resolves the government's allegations that education affiliates defrauded the government by changing students' test scores and enrolling students with invalid diploma mill high school diplomas ordered online. The allegations also led to criminal convictions for 2 admissions representatives at the institution. The American Institute, like education affiliates, had staff that was charged with financial aid fraud violating Title 20 United States Code Section 1097. Defendant, between September 2007 and April 2010, worked as an admissions counselor for the American Institute and is alleged to have created false high school diplomas that were placed in prospective student files. These files were used to gain admission and to support false applications for federal financial aid. As a direct result of these fraudulent documents, ineligible students at the American Institute received approximately $156,000 in federal financial aid to which they were not entitled. The Higher Education Act is a federal law that governs the administration of federal higher education programs, and it includes laws around federal student aid and admission representative compensation. Section 487 of the HEA prohibits higher education institutions from providing compensation with incentives to employees to encourage employees to recruit additional students. HEA also includes the students receiving federal funding must have a high school diploma or GED or other adequate education experience. The 4 for-profit institutions were found to not be following the Higher Education Act due to the fact that these institutions were providing compensation based on enrollment numbers and because institutions were forging high school diplomas, which is a requirement to receive federal financial aid. The Higher Education Act is reauthorized often, most recently in 2008. In 2008, it included the authorizations of Higher Education Opportunity Act, which required higher education institutions to be more transparent about costs, leading to numerous institutions that receive federal financial aid funds to post net price calculators on their websites. In the Consumer Fraud Act, it states that unfair methods of competition, deceptive practices, omission of material fact, and false promise with the intent that others rely on this information to conduct any trade is declared unlawful. All institutions discussed violated the Consumer Fraud Act mainly by giving students incorrect information about the institution and its programs or admitting the information that discourages students from enrolling. The False Claims Act imposes liability on companies who defraud government programs like the Federal Financial Aid Program. Title 20 United States Code, Section 1097, imposes liability on any persons who knowingly makes any false statement or furnishes any false information in connection with the assignment of a loan which is made and insured by the federal government. The institutions violated this law by creating fraudulent high school diplomas or advising students to get these fake diplomas so they could enroll at the Higher Education Institute. The 4 cases explained have brought to light the admissions tactics and recruitment strategies of numerous for-profit higher education institutions and how many of these institutions are breaking the law in order to increase enrollment and profit. Many years ago, the laws, like the Higher Education Act, was put into place to make sure all colleges are governed in the same way and have to hold the same standards in admissions and in the use of federal financial aid. Now the Department of Education is recognizing that multiple for-profit institutions are not following the law and not using the same recruitment strategies and financial aid disbursement as other for-profit and nonprofit institutions. The department is shutting down many institutions to weed out the institutions that are not focused on student success, but instead just looking to make a profit. Because of these cases, higher education policy became stricter, including mandating that all colleges provide actual graduation rates and job placement disclosures. In addition, the Department of Education has strengthened the current requirements of misrepresentation, incentive compensation, state authorization, high school diplomas, college credits, the ability to benefit, and satisfactory academic progress. These new regulations will protect students by making sure students understand the costs and financial aid associated with their program, the statistics of their program of interest, and are able to complete their degree in a timely fashion. In addition, the new regulations will protect taxpayers who are funding the federal financial aid by only providing the federal financial aid money created through taxation to the higher education institutions who are following the law. These improvements in regulations regarding admissions and financial aid tactics have been implemented, leading to less students being misled and more students having the opportunity of success. Thank you for listening to my presentation.